I would love to know your number one success principle. If I was going to ask you, as people always do, what's the number one principle of success, or what's the number one characteristic of a successful person? I don't personally think there is one that makes you successful, but otherwise I think that Napoleon Hill wouldn't have written 14 chapters or 17 principles on success. But we can all have our favorite and the one that resonates with us in a particular industry or anything. For me, guys, the number one is resilience. Resilience is the ability to withstand enormous amounts of adversity, being able to withstand, being able to just keep on going. Pretty much that's what resilience means to me. By definition, it is being able to withstand pressure, withstand adversity. And for me, that's been critical in my journey. It resonates most with me, but please put your number one in the comments below. But guys, I want to share with you today a way of thinking that really embodies resilience on the highest level. This is a super, quite emotional story, but just a very, very empowering story. And it's actually a book called In Love and War, which you can actually read about. It's based on Admiral James Stockdale, who was the highest ranking officer in the Vietnamese War. He was actually shot down and captured in a war camp from 1965 to 1972, tortured multiple times because he was the highest ranking officer. They could pull him out at any time, and they did. He was tortured, I think, almost 10 times. And there's a book called In Love and War where him and his wife go alternatively chapter by chapter. She's, sharing her experience from her being on the outside and him being in the camp, and him being inside the camp, him sharing his story. And, it really does embody the word resilience. And there's a special word or two words that he says that really helped him get through this extreme difficulty. 7 years of being tortured. You just can't even imagine what he went through. But there's a few things that he said, and I want to kind of break it down. I've taken some notes so I really get the message across to you. Because first of all, how did he make it through 7 years of torture? Because here's the thing, we all go through challenges. We all have difficult times, but it's very easy or easier, should I say, because I can't really downplay anyone's, rough times or adversity, because everybody has tough times, and what's difficult for one person may be easier for another person, and so on and so forth. But usually when we're going through tough times, we know and we understand that it's going to get better in time. Sometimes you're going through a challenge, but it might be over. I don't know, I can think of some traumatic experiences on a tiny level compared to this, but when I was in school, I used to have huge anxiety and fear around exams. But I knew that, Monday might be the exam and I'm absolutely terrified, but I know that by the end of Monday, it will be over. So it helped me cope a bit more. Or you're going through a tough time, but you know that, okay, maybe next year things get better. But how do you cope? How is it possible to fathom and have the resilience and the strength to keep going when you don't know how bad it's going to get and you don't know when it's going to end? So just imagine being captured in that camp, and what are you going through? And I want to just bring a few things that he said, which are absolutely just crazy, because he was asked a few things, and one of the questions was who didn't make it out, and he said it was the optimists. The optimists are the ones that didn't make it. And he was asked, what do you mean? Because, optimism is a great characteristic as we talk about being successful. But I want to break two things down. There's optimistic and then there's delusion. He said the optimists always thought that they was going to get out of camp by next week, by next month. A lot of them set milestones at Christmas. So the optimists would always say, we're going to be out by Christmas. We're going to be out by Christmas, and Christmas would come and they'd still be in camp. And he said that they died of a broken heart. And I think about this in business sometimes, in our industry, which, any industry that you're pursuing or a profession, it takes time, and sometimes we can mix optimism for delusion. And he said something just crazy. He said he had, and these are the two words that are really going to, these are the two words that really reside in my mind a lot. Unwavering faith. He said he had unwavering faith that he would make it out. Not only did he have unwavering faith that he was going to get out, he was so sure that this story would be such a defining moment in his life that he would rather not trade places, and he'd actually rather be there. That's how much unwavering faith he had that he would get out. But he said he had the discipline to face the utter brutality of where he was. And again, this is where I say some people are optimistic and then some people are delusional. Delusional that, oh, I'm going to make my first million in my first year. I'm going to make my first million in the first 6 months or 2 years. It's the person that says, I know this is going to work for me eventually, but I'm disciplined enough and I'm not delusional enough to think that it's going to be extremely difficult. And I'm willing to face the brutal facts that this is where I am. This is what I'm going through. And I just think about it. When you read the book In Love and War, what he's actually going through, you just can't imagine. You just can't imagine. And I love when he said, that the optimists, they died of a broken heart. The optimists or the delusional optimistic people in business are often the ones that lose because they eventually just run out of faith. They're on borrowed faith. He said he had unwavering faith, which is actually one of the principles of Napoleon Hill. And I just absolutely love this. I think about what I was taught by a coach one day about, and I think I said it in the last video, where you are isn't who you are. I think of the story of Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela was placed in a prison, but I remember a mentor and a coach telling me, the thing is that Nelson Mandela was in prison, but prison was never in him. Admiral Stockdale was in a war camp. He faced the facts and the truth. He was tortured multiple times, as I said, but he never allowed his current circumstances to live inside of him. I think this is just such an amazing story that we can all really, really break down and carry this philosophy forward. And we can all adopt the Stockdale Paradox, which is a way of thinking that, listen, I have an uphill task against me. I think back to 9 years ago when I got started in my profession, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. Everybody laughed at me. It just seemed like such a stupid idea what I was doing. But I had unwavering faith that it would work. I didn't know how it was going to happen. I didn't know. I had no idea, but I expected it to take everything that I had, and I was willing to give it everything I had. I think if we can all adopt that philosophy, whatever you're doing, as long as you're on a journey to somewhere greater than where you are right now, which is going to take, tremendous effort and maybe take you to places you're not comfortable in going, if we can adopt the Stockdale Paradox, the unwavering faith. Another thing he said, which I forgot to mention, is he spoke about controlling the controllable. If we adopt this philosophy of I have unwavering faith that the destination that I've set in my mind, I'm going to make it there. I'm going to make it. But we face the brutal facts that it's going to take everything we've got. We're going to have to give up a lot of things. We're going to have to endure some suffering. We don't have to be tortured to get to our goals and dreams, thank God. But we are going to have to endure some extreme difficulties and uncomfortabilities. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this short video about the Stockdale Paradox. I hope you take this on board. Please put in the comments what your biggest takeaway from this is. And the book In Love and War is a complete, must read. And as I kind of close this out, as I lead into the next video, I'm going to be sharing about Jim Collins, who wrote a book called Good to Great. A lot of you know my obsession with leadership, and Jim Collins studied basically what makes good companies great, or what makes companies great in general, because we have so many fast food restaurants, but why are McDonald's number one? We have so many sportswear companies, but why is Nike number one? It's just a Nike tick. What makes great companies great? And why I love bringing this all together is because he actually, in his research, bumped into Admiral Stockdale, and he learned a lot from him as well. So thank you for tuning into the video. I look forward to seeing you on the next one.